morning, good morning. I am Nate. This is Bissell Maple Farms YouTube channel, and you're in my truck. And for those of you who haven't been around, I am actually heading over to Joe's place. Time for the corn harvest. He is actually pulling corn out off today. It's got about 30 acres left, and I definitely, since was helping him this spring with the LS tractor, we were doing some disking and tearing the ground up before we got crops in the ground, and I definitely wanted to get a shot of the harvest. You know, it isn't any fun if all you do is plow ground and you don't get to be around for the harvest. So looking forward to it. Grab some sandwiches for Matt and Joe, heading over. And yeah, I have never been in a combine. Like, it's my first time, actually. I have no idea how they actually work. Been around them. Yeah, thanks for stopping in. Catch you at the end.
Where do you want me?
You can sit there, there, or there. It doesn't matter. I think you prefer that one, don't you?
Yeah.
What do you think? Was this your most successful year ever?
No.
Really?
No, it wasn't, because I had a lot of expenses and the price of the corn went down. Price of corn last year was $5.50 a bushel, and it was $3.97 a bushel this year.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
So expenses went up.
Expenses went up, and
the price of corn dropped by 50%.
No, about 30%.
Gotcha.
So it made it a tough year.
Can you tell me about this farm, like how long you've been farming it, and tell me what you recently did. So this farm.
This farm here was original Moiseo farm. My wife lived here when I met her. She was 18 years old, and I started farming it when she was 18, and that was 50 years ago. So I've been farming this farm for 50 years. The only mistake I made was not tiling it back then. It was a wet farm, lots of water, very flat. Then I bought this house and remodeled it, put an extensive amount of money and added over 1,000 square feet to the house.
Do you like it here?
Love it here. I like it here because the road's quiet, not much traffic.
Yeah.
When I was on Griggs, there was a lot of traffic.
Was it always in the field?
Actually, when I started, it was set in idle when I met Cindy because Paul wasn't farming anymore. Paul used to have a dairy here, and there was a barn on the left-hand side here, and Kenny had some fireworks and he burned it down.
No kidding.
So, but they didn't have cattle at that time. They already got rid of the cattle before that.
So did you farmed here first?
Yeah, I farmed here first, yes.
What? Tell me about the farm you grew up on. Why do you have a love of crops?
Well, first of all, if you got cows, they eat and they poop. You got to clean it up. You don't have to clean up after the fields.
That's true.
And if you go on vacation, you can go on vacation anywhere during the summer or anywhere during the winter because your crops are off. Cattle, you have to be there morning and night, 365 days a year.
So did you have cattle at the farm you grew up on?
I had 35 head of Angus, and they had their moments where they would get loose and go down the road. So I do not miss cow. You don't have to chase crops. You have to chase cattle. I know one thing. If I had to do over again, I would have started younger. Not younger, but I would have started tiling when I was younger. I would have started tiling when I was in my 40s. Every ground I have would be tiled.
This is the first time you tiled?
The first time I ever had tile.
Are you in your 40s, Joe?
Now I'm 70.
So you put tile in at age 70.
Yep.
And you don't regret it?
Nope.
And the tile actually reduces fuel?
It probably knocked off 50% of the fuel costs because you don't pull as hard because you're not in the mud. When you're combining, I could go through 80 gallons a day, and now I go through about 35 to 40 gallons.
What was the thing that surprised you most about tiling that you didn't think you'd see? Like the gain? You knew you were going to get 200 bushels, right, per acre?
Right. Probably the biggest thing about tiling is no wet spots. Except for the combine fell through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only because it was tiled in June, and there was a hollow spot underneath, and when I went across it, one tire fell in. She went to the axles.
If you known that was there, you would have driven across it instead of with
Right,
it.
but I drove both sides of it. It was only one little spot.
Huh.
And I went out and I disced in the hole, where I fell in. That tile was 5 foot down right there because that was the main. And so there must have been a hollow spot underneath.
Gotcha.
And it cost me $250 to get a bulldozer to pull it out.
Was the tiling worth it?
Oh, yes. I'm going to tile another 10 acres next year.
You actually saw that you gained 3 acres, right? Like you gained about 10% of what you had in field.
I gained about 10% because of places that didn't grow anything.
You have to turn less. Like when you're out there, you're not turning all the time. Just
I
going
got
straight
rid of
down.
my small fields, and now they're all nice big fields, and that probably saved me another 20%.
On fuel.
So it made a huge difference, and I never could go from one end of the field and harvest to the other end of the field because it was mud holes, and you had to go around them. Now you just go straight through them.
Did you put any fertilizer down here?
Okay, fertilizer here, I put 19. That's one of your strongest fertilizers for in the row. And I put 250 pounds to the acre. And I come back and put 300 pounds of urea. That's pure nitrogen. If you don't put the urea on, you don't get the yield. Once the corn starts growing, corn needs a lot of nitrogen. Now beans, on the other hand, doesn't need any nitrogen. They make nitrogen.
That's why you rotate?
That's why you rotate, because when the bean plant grows, on the roots, there's little nodules, the little round BBs like, and that's pure nitrogen, and the corn can use that. So you can cut the nitrogen use a little bit when you have beans right in front of it. But beans use potash, extreme amount of potash to grow.
Do you have to rotate every other year?
Nah, with the modern day farm and everything, you could go probably 5-6 years in a row before you switch to a different crop.
But you like to rotate because it improves yield. Because that nitrogen from the beans will then help the corn?
Will help the corn. But you can, they got a new brand of corn coming out next year, and it's just in the experimental stage. It pulls the nitrogen out of the air, the plant.
Jeez. There's a lot of it. 70% of our atmosphere is nitrogen.
And so they're saying that you'll be able to cut your fertilizer by 75% on the nitrogen on corn.
Doesn't sound like the fertilizer companies are going to like that.
No. I just wonder how the seed companies will like it, because they'll sell tons of it.
Well, they can probably mark it up a little more.
I don't know if they can go much higher. $300 a bag for a unit of corn is terrible, when it used to be $65 for a bag.
Out of the entire process of fitting the fields, so plowing, disking, planting, fertilizer, spraying, and then harvest, what is the part you like the most?
I actually like combining the corn the most.
Yeah, I could see why. It's like running the evaporator.
I just love going up and down, watching that corn go in the bin. It goes in the bin fast.
It does.
Now soybeans, if you get 50, 60 bushels the acre, you're doing really well. Average for the county this year was 42. Last year I averaged 60. This year I averaged 42. Wasn't a good year for beans, but corn grew well this year. Corn in this county used to be, average was 90 bushel. Corn average for this county now is 177.
And most of the large farms are doing over 200.
Yeah.
Is this county known for corn and production at all?
If you go down towards Andover, yes. If you go towards Hartsgrove, yes. You come up by the lake here, Pierpont, Dorse area, no.
Is it because of water and soil, right?
It's because of the soil. It's a silty loam towards pontooming, and here it's a clay base.
Gotcha.
And the other thing about up here, clay has aluminum in it. It ties up the nutrients in it. And if the pH is off, they can't use the fertilizer very well.
What type of corn did you plant here?
I planted over at Jared's and over there 97-day corn. And these last two fields were 87-day because I had to plant them late because they were tiling the field. I planted, this last corn was planted June 20th, and I like to be done by June 1st.
It was late.
So it was about 20 days late, so I went with a lighter maturity. When you go lighter maturity, you get smaller ears. You get a little less yield. If that would have been early in the year, like next year, I'll probably go out in April if I plant. I'll probably plant beans on this next year.
Tell me about the process. You call it cutting into a field. Remember you came up here.
Yeah.
Tell me why you take that little bit around the edges. What does that do? What's it called, and why do you do it?
Well, first of all, you open the field up. Your rows are planted across the field so that you can have a place to turn the combine around. Otherwise, you'd be knocking corn every time you get to the end of the field. So you plant the corn the opposite direction at a perpendicular.
So that's how you open the field. You come across.
I come across and take the end rows off first.
I got you.
And then on both ends of the field. And then I go up one side of the field. And then I split the field like in thirds. And then just go down one and come back up the other side.
You went down and back. How long does it take you? How many trips down and back before you have to empty?
The field right behind the house here, it was every round. That was a shorter field over there.
It's pretty close, though.
It was almost a full bend in one round. I dumped every round only because I couldn't make 2 rounds.
I got you.
But this field here, it was full right to the top one round.
I noticed. You going? Yeah. It's not an extra seat up here, Joe.
No.
All right.
Okay, you good?
In case it gets loud, can I shut this door?
Yep, shut the door. I shut the door all the time.
All right. Now, why are 2 of the heads pointed down? Different model?
Well, that came off of my old head.
I got you.
We kind of tucked the point under.
So it's not on purpose.
No. Not on purpose.
So you have to kind of watch it doesn't get too low, or it'll just.
No, I'm up way off the ground.
I got you. Man, the visibility of this thing's excellent. This is a big machine to turn, Joe.
Yeah. Normally I come right in, just dump and go.
Right.
But I was on that odd angle.
Plus somebody slowed you down.
We'll have plenty of good dump shots when you come up this
If
time.
you turn that wiper on, will it take a layer of dust off?
Nope.
That dust might be on the inside, Joe.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. So what year is this model?
This is a 1993. Good running combine.
Yeah. It's got a Ford diesel.
Yep.
Are you going to need to turn something on over here?
Yeah, I will in a minute, but you're fine. I can reach right under you. Nope. It's already here.
Never seen these work before. So you got to put that last row right in there, huh? What do you got in your right hand? Is that your throttle?
Forward and back.
I got you.
It's a hydro.
Making me nervous.
This here turns it, tilts the head.
I got you. In case the
This one
ground's...
here raises it up, and that raises it lower.
I got you.
We'll move right along.
Yep. So what's the story on this corn? You got it in late, which actually helped you.
The 20th of June I planted it. And it's
We had like a month.
averaging about 220 bushels the acre.
We had like a month of no rain before that. If you had got it in earlier, it wouldn't have been this good a crop.
Probably would not.
You accidentally did the right thing, Joe. Sometimes you get lucky. So how many ears are typically on the stalk?
One. But there's a lot of 2-ear stocks this year.
What causes that?
The bright growing temperatures and stuff. I don't need the board now.
Center right here. I was surprised with how much visibility there is in that combine.
There's a lot.
And how you can just walk right out on that edge. And then even on the back, up around the engine. The mechanics, I noticed there was a hose that came up and it separated from another hose, but it's a metal for like exhaust or something.
Yeah.
Is that like a turbo or?
I have a turbo on that.
Gotcha. Can you describe the process of lining the combine up? All of the levers and stuff you have to do. Can you describe pulling the combine up, the order in which you do things to actually?
Well, first of all, you engage the a threshing unit.
What about putting the
combine.
head where you want it? Do you do that? Like, what order do you do it?
I start the combine, heading towards the rows before I even get there. And as I'm traveling, I engage the whole unit inside. I don't slow down. And after I engage the unit, when I get closer to the rows, I kick in the header. It has a separate lever that pulls the gathering chains in and pulls the corn into the combine. When you get about 10 feet away from the field, maybe 15 feet away from the end of the row, I lower the head. You don't want the head lowered where you go past center, where you take a point out.
Gotcha. So how many different things are you controlling to run that combine? The throttle initially.
The throttle is simple. You put it full bore and you go.
Okay.
It runs at, because you got to have the rotors going at least 500 RPM. So in order to do that on corn and get everything matches up, you have to run at full throttle. And you do that for soybeans too. So any combine runs at full throttle in the field.
So what is the thing up in the front that you put the piece of wood to control? What is that?
That engages a threshing unit.
Okay.
And
so the threshing unit's the chain drive?
It's the inside the unit that's spinning the rotors and going over screens to sift out the cob. And
I got you. So what is the lever that made all the gears and stuff run on the head?
that was just a lever off to the left. You just pull
That's
it
right under where I was sitting.
right under where you're sitting. You just pull that up, and the gathering chains start pulling the corn in.
I got you. So the thresher is a whole nother lever.
That's a whole nother lever.
So you start the head, then the thresher, or do you start
You
the
start the
thresher?
thresher first, and then the head.
I got you.
Then you lower it down, and you go through the field, and then you can travel up to 3.5 miles an hour with 8 rows, and the combine handles it pretty good.
Yeah,
I like to be down about 2.8 miles an hour. It does a little cleaner job.
You get more yield.
If you start going over 3.5, it'll start kicking it out the back of the combine.
It's like passing sugar on your membrane.
Yeah.
Can you explain the corn head, how many rows you can do at a time, and then explain to me how the gears and stuff bring it in? Because it's something that when we show it, I'd like to have you explain how it's working.
Okay, my corn head is an 8-row corn head. So when I go down the field, I'm taking 8 rows off at a time. And they're 30-inch apart each row. That's approximately 16 feet. And the grain head, I got a 30-foot and 25-footer. I got 2 different grain heads for it. I've been running the 25 only because it weighs less to carry.
Now on the corn head, explain what's happening as that stock gets in between.
When the stock comes into the point, it goes into, there's 2 rollers underneath, and that snaps the ear off. So the ear is free in there. And there's 2 chains flying towards the combine, in the direction of the combine, pulls the ear into the combine.
And it doesn't cut it, it just snaps it right off.
It snaps the ear right off the stock. The stock goes out the bottom.
And then that corn, that ear, I noticed that sometimes it'll almost come out, but it hits that ledge.
There's a little rubber ledge, and because there's so many ears coming in, they can't all get up there quick enough, so they flop on the sheet metal, and they land on top of the point. And when they fall in, because the chains are pulling up towards the combine, they still make it in the combine. You don't lose very many of them.
And then it goes from that chain, and then
Then the auger, it's just a screw auger. It's rotating both directions because the way it's set up on there as you're turning, so it pulls everything to the center. And then when it pulls it to the center, there's some teeth that pull it into the combine.
what happens next?
Then it goes up in the combine, it hits 2 spinning rotors, and it shears the corn off the cob. And then the cob goes on top of the screen, and the kernels, because they're smaller, will drop in the grain pan.
And then the grain pan.
And then the grain pan is tapered towards the back of the combine, and it goes into a little chamber that's looks like a bottom of a wagon, and falls into an auger, and then it goes up in the bin.
If you've ever shucked corn, you know how much fun that is, but it's amazing how it starts from on a stalk to golden yellow clean corn inside.
Well, there's a lot of mechanism inside a combine. There's probably 600-700 bearings in that combine.
There's a lot of belts.
There's probably 30 belts in a combine.
Do you consider, what size farmer do you consider yourself for doing crops? Like, people from all over are going to watch a video from different areas, and we're not Iowa in this area.
I would say I'm a small-time farmer. I'm not a big-time farmer. I'd say you couldn't make a full living off the size farm I got. It's a good supplement for my retirement, but you'd have to work off the farm because you can't make enough profit on 200 acres no matter what.
Where's the number for acreage in corn where you think you could make it?
About 450. you could actually make a, a fair $60,000 a year income, $70,000 net, after you get going.
450 acres.
Yeah, you'd have.
Could you farm 450 acres with the equipment you have?
No. I would definitely get one larger tractor, something that's probably 200 horse or better, that will pull 40-foot disc.
But what you have is actually, would you say it's just right or oversized?
It's a little oversized. I mean, I could plant a lot more acres with what equipment I have. I could probably run 300 acres with it.
You'd be hustling though, right?
You'd be hustling. And you wouldn't be quitting like we'd quit at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. You would not be quitting 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. You'd be working at midnight every night.
Yeah, just running.
Now, I farmed 100, the 100 some acres when I was working a full-time job at night.
Well, did you do it by yourself?
Did it by myself.
That's no fun doing it by yourself.
No, it's much fun when you have a company.
Yeah.
That's just like you ever notice when you're doing a job, if somebody's with you, it's much more enjoyable.
And it gets done 3 times faster, probably.
Yeah. Except for we take too many breaks.
Yeah, but all the efficiency makes up for it.
That's just like if you're building a building and you just need somebody to hold the other end of that board. If you got to build, something to hold the end that go the other end, it takes a long time to do it.
It's true. That's a good line. Is this the most yield you've ever gotten off these fields?
It's the most yield per acre, yes. I used to get 800 bushels off this field, and this year I got about 3,200.
Are you serious? 4 times the yield? Is it genetics?
It's the way I've been farming better.
Oh, I got you.
I didn't know how to farm.
And you attribute that to the putting in the tile?
I attribute these 2 fields for the tile, yeah, because the time I planted them, if I didn't tile them, I would have probably been about 100 bushels the acre. Because they were tiled, it probably brought 200 because we had some wet times, when it was growing, but it didn't affect it.
So how much fuel do you burn in an hour?
Well, in 8 hours, I burned 10 gallons an hour.
Wow. That costs
But
more.
you think about a combine, you only pull it out like this year for harvesting the amount I did. That was only about maybe 100 hours running time total.
Yeah.
It wasn't any more than that.
How much do you think you spend in fuel a year?
Fuel a year? Probably about $4,000, $5,000
In diesel.
in diesel fuel. I haven't added up this year, but last year I was about 5,100.
Why don't you use as much diesel because of the tile?
Because it doesn't take as much horsepower to get through the field. When you're going through mud, it takes a lot more horsepower. If you stay on top,
So it's because the tires are spinning in the mud.
and they're pulling hard because they really got to pull to get through it. It pulls hard enough. A lot of times the combine goes down.
How much corn fits in your combine?
210 bushel.
210 bushel. That's what's coming through that auger.
That's what's coming through the auger when you unload.
How many minutes does it take you to unload?
About 4 minutes.
And that's what's going into the gravity wagons?
That's what's going in the gravity wagon.
Tell me about the 2 gravity wagon system you have.
We pulled tandem gravity wagons up to with a tractor uptown, and each one carries about 200 bushel. And then we also have one larger wagon which carries 400, and we only pull one at a time.
I got you.
Because 400 is 24,000 pounds, and you don't want to see it push the tractor around.
How many trips does Matt make to Jefferson with corn during a season?
Probably 60.
He's got it down to a science, doesn't he?
Matt is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
He really does a good job.
So he helped you with, he actually ran the tractor a little bit to fit the fields.
Yes.
He helped you with planting,
Yes.
and he definitely helped you with the whole harvest.
Yes. Normally, He will do as much as I do in plowing and disking.
Well, he was moving and stuff. Wasn't he
was
moving? He had a
this
bunch
year.
of stuff going on.
And normally he drives a Kubota.
Can you describe the process of Matt hauling the corn to town?
Okay, he takes a tractor with 2 wagons. He drives 5 miles, and then they weigh it, and then they drive it around the back, dump the wagons, empty them, and then reweigh the tractor and wagons, and then you get a net weight, and that's how much corn they pay for.
What's the thing they put down in? There's like a machine.
When you first come in, they have to sample the corn so they know what the corn is.
What is that thing?
It's a round tube, and it's got a vacuum on it and pulls a little bit of corn inside so they can sample it. And that's so that they can measure the bottom of the wagon, the sides of the wagon, so that they know that you're not putting wet corn underneath.
I got you.
So you can't cheat them. And they do a test weight on it. Corn is supposed to be 60 pounds per bushel. And if you planned a little late, like I did, my test weight was 54. And you do get charged for that.
Gotcha.
It was like 7 cents a bushel dockage. It's amazing how things have evolved. But I'm low tech. The new high tech, I can't see how people can afford it unless you're doing 1,000 acres.
Right.
Because they got new machines out there that measures the color of the leaves and puts the fertilizer on only in parts that need it. Because it's measuring the color of the leaves.
How deep green it is.
Yep. And then they got a new weed control, which nobody's bought yet because it's too expensive. They use lasers to kill the weeds.
No kidding.
Yeah, they don't use any herbicide. It just laser shoots out everywhere under there.
It's like War of the Worlds.
And it doesn't touch the plant. It just burns off all the leaves right at the ground.
This is the first time I've ever done anything like this year, and I can see the appeal. Like, I actually enjoyed it. But it's a lot more work than maple.
It's a lot of work, but the rewards are about the same.
Why do you like doing this?
You're out in the open air, and when it's real sunny with a breeze coming across, you can't have a better thing than that.
Because you do this every year.
I've done it every year for at least 50 years.
And you love it.
Yep. There's quite a few years wasn't a profit. This year there'll be a small profit, but not much. Last year there was a good profit. Last year, when corn was $5.50 a bushel, I made good money. This year, I made a little bit. I would say my expenses were probably $3, and I made probably 90 cents a bushel.
So that's corn harvest. It's quite the operation, at least from my perspective. I know there's lots of guys out there doing way bigger operations, but I really appreciate the whole process of the principles of farming. You got to plant a seed. You got to fertilize. You got to take care of the weeds. You got to fit the field. You can't just show up and expect to harvest. There's a lot that goes into it. Farmers understand that. So, yeah. Hey, thanks for coming along with me. You know, I've enjoyed doing this with Joe. He's done this my whole life, and I've never really been a part of the process. So, I am glad that I was able to document it. So, I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for stopping by. Catch you on the next episode.